Mix 1041 and MixTV.tv. We are joined by our friends Jay and Brittany Hagee with Alon Planning Partners. Great to see you all.
Great to be here,
Hey,
Bridget.
Bridget.
Thank you.
Yeah, so today we're going to talk about the types of risks when it comes to financial planning in general. So let's go ahead and get this conversation started here.
Absolutely. Risk is everywhere. That's the whole point that we want to make today, is that you're going to face some type of risk no matter what decisions that you make. Folks come in all the time and maybe as a 22 and their market was going way down and they're like, oh my gosh, I need out of the market risk. And then inflation took over and we're having 9% inflation years, and they're like, oh my goodness, my cash is losing purchasing power. It may not be in the volatility of the market, but I've got risk now because I'm losing purchasing power on my money. No matter where you position yourself in the retirement game, there's going to be risk. It's just we want to minimize those and make your plan work for you in all environments. And so we want to talk about a few type of specific risks today that you want to be aware of.
Yeah, so there's some pretty basic types of risk that we're all familiar with. But before we jump into all those different categories really briefly, it's important to note that you get to choose the amount of risk
That's
and
right.
the type of risk that you take. We're all going to face it.
That's right.
So you can't, there's factors out of our control. That's a fact. We're going to face some type of risk. But you get to choose for your financial picture how much risk you're willing to take and within what categories. So as we go through these, be thinking about that is to, hey, yes, I've got that risk, or man, I didn't think about that risk. See if any of these really resonate. First one we already talked about, market risk. That's pretty clear. We're all familiar with this. If you're invested in stocks or equities, you are at risk for losing the value of your account because there's market risk involved there. So that one's pretty basic. We're all aware of that.
And that's in every asset class. That's not just stocks.
True.
That's bonds.
That's
that's cash. That's real estate. I mean, we saw in '08 what happened to real estate, right? It went down 50%.
All of it.
And so you're going to have risk no matter what type of asset that you hold. And so there's asset market risk when it comes to what you're holding as far as that's concerned. Now, on top of that, there's inflationary risk. And that's what I was talking about just a minute ago, is that, okay, I don't want all the market risk. Like, how do I get out of this market risk? Well, I'll just put my cash under the mattress.
A lot of people think that.
And I'll be fine.
That's safe.
Right?
That's safe money.
It's safe. I don't have to think about it. But here's the problem. You go to spend it a year from now, and if this was in 22, you've got about 10% less purchasing power than you had. So that $100 is now worth $90.
So hear this.
You feel like you still have $100, but you only have $90.
That's right. Hear this today. Your cash dollars, cash that you have sitting in an account or under your mattress or in your freezer or wherever it is at risk. I think a lot of people, that doesn't compute, or we don't really process that way because we're not, quote, investing it, right? It is at risk. So be aware of that. Again, if that's what you choose, of course, with a portion of your money, we all need some kind of cash.
Absolutely. Emergency funds are very important.
But we should not have large sums of money just sitting in cash because they are losing in value.
What do we call that when there's large sums of money in cash?
Well, it's wasted. It's lazy
money.
Yeah.
Like it's just
not
lazy
working.
money. It's just sitting there. Now, you have to have an emergency fund, like Brittany said. You have to have a certain amount of funds that, hey, if I need them, I can get to them. But if you've got a overwhelming percentage of your assets
That's the
in
problem.
cash, that's lazy money. It's going backwards. It's not going forward. So that's inflation risk.
Yep. And the last one we want to hit on, there's so many more we could talk about. We could talk about this for hours, I know.
Yeah.
But one that's really important that we see so often is self-induced risk, where people make emotional decisions when it comes to their dollars, and they cause themselves more problems because of these knee-jerk reactions, whether it's
Emotionally.
how they're invested in the market, or maybe they spend something on something huge just because they're in the moment and they say,
Impulse buying,
I want
yeah.
this. Exactly, impulse buying. So that self-induced risk that you have to be aware of, man, I can subvert the process that I am in trying to reach my financial goals. I have to be aware of that. And we actually have, we're going to talk about this probably in a later time with you all, Bridget, but we have a set of non-negotiables. Like personally, I'm talking about Jay and I as a family, as a household, as a couple. These are the things that keep us from making awful financial decisions.
Right.
We want to make sound and wise financial decisions. And the way you do that is by creating your own list of non-negotiables, what that actually looks like, so that you don't have all of these bad decisions that come out of these emotional reactions. So for example, if you're invested in the market and all of a sudden you get afraid and you're like, I got to pull everything out, and you pull all the cash. And then the problem with that is you're trying to time the market. Well, when do I get back in? And you may get back in when it's lower, or you wait till it's higher, and then you miss the growth. There's just so much problem with trying to time the market. And so you have to be aware of that self-induced risk and know, okay, how can I minimize that type of risk so that I'm not making these types of decisions that are going to hurt my financial situation?
So the goal here is we help folks identify and then minimize the amount of risk they're taking. Because like Brittany said, you're going to have some sort of risk no matter what you do. You know, back in elementary school or something, you used to have those books like Choose Your Own Adventure, and you could pick which page you went to, right? Whatever. We help people choose their own risk and choose their own risk level. And we help you identify and uncover risk you probably or maybe not even be aware of, right? And so that's why we have complimentary consultations with folks so that they can sit down and say, listen, here's my situation from start to end. Are there any potholes that you see that need to be filled? Are there any hurdles that I don't even see coming that I need to identify? And so we help folks identify those risks and say, listen, you're doing good maybe here and here, but let's change this third strategy to get you to a better spot. You know, and that is so individualistic. Like, it's hard on the radio or on TV to paint with a broad brush and say, hey, everybody just needs to do this, right? That's not possible because everybody has different goals, desires, and assets that they have available to them. So let us help you identify your risk and move you to a place to where you can minimize those and get on the right track for your financial future.
And I want to speak just for a minute to those risk takers that are listening, because I'm married to one.
Yeah.
I'm married
nothing wrong with
there
taking
is
risks.
nothing wrong with being a risk. I mean, to an extent, I am as well. Okay. So we are really willing to take some risk. But for those of you listening that are major risk takers, that may be okay for you. But what we want to ensure is that you're not putting yourself in a position that would just wipe out your entire financial picture, and that you all of a sudden don't have a financial future because you're taking unnecessary risk. That's the difference. This is where we come back to the conversation about different sums of money being invested in different ways. So many folks have, sums of money that are invested very high risk when it comes to maybe market risk or something. But then they have other sums of money that are invested in different ways to kind of counteract or to bring diversification to their overall picture. That's all we're saying. Let's look at the big picture. Don't just get pigeonholed into one way of thinking, or all my money has to be doing this one thing. No, let's look at the big picture so that you can ensure you're getting to where you want to be when it comes to your financial picture.
We're talking with Jay and Brittany Hagee, Alon Planning Partners, 423-315-1441, and online at alonplanning.com. So what we've learned today, risk is inevitable. It's just minimizing that risk, and that's where people need to talk with professionals and knowledgeable people such as yourself. So, give us, again, your contact information. I know I just mentioned that.
Absolutely.
And talk about that consultation.
Well, when you come in, you can leave your checkbooks at home. We're not trying to sell you anything. We really want to uncover the risk that you're taking and bring something to you. So reach out to us, 423-315-1441, or right from our website at alonplanning.com. That's ALLON planning.com. We'll be able to schedule a complimentary consultation to where we'll sit down and individually craft a plan for you and your family to minimize risk and to elevate your financial future.
That's Jay and Brittany Hagee, Alon Planning Partners. Thanks so much. Great to see you all.
Thank you, Bridget.
Thank you.
Investment advisory services are offered through Foundations Investment Advisors, LLC, an SEC-registered investment advisor. The content provided is intended for informational and educational purposes only. The views, statements, and opinions expressed herein are those of the individual speakers and not necessarily those of Foundations and its affiliates. The information contained herein does not constitute an offer to sell any securities or represent an express or implied opinion or endorsement of any specific investment opportunity, offering, or issuer. Any discussion of performance or returns is not indicative of future results. Each individual investor's situation is different, and any ideas provided may not be appropriate for your particular circumstances. Foundations only transacts business in states where it is properly registered or is excluded or exempted from registration requirements. Registration as an investment advisor is not an endorsement of the firm by securities regulators and does not mean the advisor has achieved a specific level of skill or ability. No legal or or tax advice is provided. Always consult with a tax professional. All rights reserved.